What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Revived, episode number 24. I always forget to look at that until I'm reading the intro, and then I'm like, what episode is this? I have no idea. I am your host, as always, Shane Craig, and joining me this time is not the lovely Jesse Craig, but is, in fact, my friend Daniel, who is a YouTuber under the title Youngbread401. So he is joining me today in lieu of Jesse.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
So basically, let us know in the comments how you're doing today. So in case you're wondering, Jessie is fine. Don't panic. She's just work has been very stressful, and the opportunity to sit down and record did not present itself. So here we are. We're gonna find a way to get content out anyways. That's what we're going to do. If you're new to Podcast Revive, this is where we share our love of gaming, tech, etc., nerd culture, these sorts of things with all of you people. We record every week, and we post this on YouTube as well as every podcast service known to man, from Spotify to iTunes, etc., etc. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button. If you're on iTunes or whatever, leave a review or a rating on there. That also helps us out quite a bit. So before we go too far, just to give some context, Daniel, do you want to say a little bit about what your YouTube channel is, kind of who you are?
Sure. Yeah, sure. My YouTube channel consists of three things most recently. Thursdays, I release Talking Thursdays, which is an interview with small content creators. I had you on there. You were my first one. And I try to do at least one every Thursday. Saturday, I do a scary game, any horror game that I can think of. And Monday, I play vintage games like Banjo-Kazooie. Recently, I've been playing Ocarina of Time. That's about it. I mean, that's pretty much all I do. Sometimes I release random videos as well, but those three are the main topics.
Sure. Yeah, definitely got some good content on there. The interview series you've been doing have been very, very good. It's a very cool idea, so we're definitely happy to have you here pretending you're going to do your best Jesse impersonation here.
I'm honored to be here.
I do think, so, one of the things that's obviously going on right now that I think is, it's kind of the big news that's on everyone's mind is Cyberpunk 2077. And it's something I've talked about quite a bit on the channel, just in terms of the, would you call it a dumpster fire that has been unleashed upon the world? But I've not played the game myself, and on the PC, apparently it's quite a bit better. And luckily enough, Daniel here actually has played it, has the game. You spent a decent amount of time with it, haven't you?
Yeah, I've put about 10 hours in so far.
Okay, what has your experience been with Cyberpunk on the PC? I know most of the big hubbub has been, obviously it's been pulled from the PlayStation Store for the PlayStation 4. I should be specific. Offering refunds to everybody. Xbox is offering refunds, and they've kept it in their store, but they're putting up like a warning, like basically like, hey, this might run like shit if you're on your Xbox One. So what has your experience been on your PC?
Well, as you know, you've seen my computer. I don't have the best, built it myself PC. It's not $2,000 worth. I got about $700 computer. And in my opinion, on Steam, I think that it runs perfectly. I should say perfect. I should retract that. I think that it runs good enough. That I've run into a few bugs. One of the bugs that I ran into, I tried to go out a door and I couldn't go out the door. And hey, son. And I couldn't go out the door. And that was just a simple reload the save. We're like 2 seconds behind where I was, and I could go out the door. And
so it sounds like kind of like it for people that played a lot of Bethesda games, Skyrim, Fallout. That's the kind of stuff that puts me in the mind of stuff that, for me, like, some people play those games like Skyrim and Fallout, and the bugs and glitches and just the general weirdness didn't bother them much at all. I was more bothered by that stuff, just because like the jankiness just would pull me out of the experience. And like, like, I don't know if you've seen this bug or not, but like little things like there's traffic, you're blocking traffic because you're standing in the road and you're looking and it's like a red car, and then he turns and then looks back and now it's like a blue truck. And then he turns away and looks back, and now it's like, a gray compact again. It's like that's the stuff that for me, I'm like, well, I'm no longer V. I'm no longer in this game. I am no longer immersed in that experience.
Right. I haven't run into any specific problems like that. The door glitch was probably the only one that made it annoying and got in my way. Uh, I've seen others where like graphical problems were like rendering, I guess. Like you run up
Mm-hmm.
on someone and they just look like cubes,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
then all of a sudden it's a person.
yeah,
That's happened to me one time with a car. But most of the time, like stopping traffic, I get hit in the street. Like if I'm running in the road, they're just gonna run me
yeah.
over. They don't
Sure.
care.
That's really interesting because like correct me if I'm misremembering, but your CPU is like a Ryzen 5 of some sort,
Yeah.
and then you're running an RX 480. So like
Mhm.
you would be like a deeply mid tier tower. So the fact that the PS4 is, just as an example, I'll say Xbox One as well, just for shorthand, so I don't have to keep saying PS4 and Xbox One. I am henceforth going to talk about the PS4, but both, it's applicable to both. That the PS4 version, I mean, you're talking about, LOD level of detail where you walk up on a character and they're stuck in their low LOD, what they should be rendering as, way, way away from you where it's not noticeable, but they're stuck in the low LOD up close. I mean, gosh, there's a YouTube channel called Highlight Reel, which their last episode, basically people send in like funny gaming clips. Their last one was like 15 minutes of Cyberpunk bugs. And it was like stuff like that, where like cars were rendering in low LOD, and they were like two-dimensional sprites almost, and they were like just sliding awkwardly, like they weren't even going straight, like they're off like catty corner. And I was just watching this, like, man, this stuff makes Fallout 3 at launch look like a fucking polished, pristine, like bug-free thing. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's horrible for the consoles, but like I haven't run into any of those issues on PC. And this is one of the things me and my friend were talking about, is that I think this game was designed for computers, something that like is strong, or maybe next gen. I don't own a next gen console, so I haven't seen it on a next gen console. But as far as PS4 and Xbox One go, I don't think you're gonna get your money's worth of, you buy it now, it's $60. I
Not
don't think
right
you're
now.
going to get your money's worth for it.
Yeah.
I think it's best to either hold off to get the new gen and then maybe get it, or get a computer and then get it.
What's crazy is that this thing was in development for so long. The target was PS4 and Xbox One because it started development. I feel like it started development when I was 10, but that's not true. But I feel like it's been in development forever. So it's like,
I think it's 2012.
Yeah, like the PS5 was a twinkle in an engineer's eye at that point. It's like, it's crazy to me that at some point in development they got so far from where they needed to be on the current gen, or I guess last gen now, consoles, that you wind up with a game that isn't even. It's so broken. Like when I heard that Sony was pulling it from the store, I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. I can't recall that ever happening in the past.
I can't either. It's like Skyrim, Fallout, still.
Yeah,
no.
Those all got to stay in the store. This is on another level of bad. And what's really crazy too is, like, for the longest time, I just kept, people, there were rumors that the crunch was bad and that, it was buggy and all these things. And I was like, well, it's CD Projekt Red. The Witcher was great. All their games have been good. It'll be fine. Boy, was I wrong. I mean, like, that trust was misplaced. They have bungled this really badly.
This game is very different from The Witcher.
Sure.
Like, it's not third person. It's not. I don't think it's as big. I mean, I can't say, I haven't explored the entire map, but I can't dream to think that it's as big as the Witcher 3 map.
But it's denser than the Witcher's map.
Yeah. Well, there's more going on. You got there's in the settings option, you can turn down crowd density.
Right.
Because you're walking through this, like, basically it's like what equivalent to New York City.
Yeah.
Like Times Square, where you're shoulder to shoulder with a whole bunch of people. And there's gunfights going on, there's cars, there's lights, music,
people falling out of the sky, apparently, which I've seen in glitches. Just a random man just splatting on the ground. Like I've seen that like in a couple of clips. I'm like, what is happening in this game? Cars exploding apropos of nothing, just random explosions. Yeah. Do you think you played GTA 5, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Is this game considerably like when you look at Cyberpunk and you look at GTA 5, do you look at it and think, oh, well, clearly Cyberpunk should be much more difficult to run because you can do X, Y, and Z?
Yes.
Okay, it does seem that much of a leap
Yes.
over GTA
Yes.
5.
Yeah, I love GTA 5, but there's so much going on. There's like it's like being in a rave 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
There's lights, planes, cars, people, action. It, I'm not surprised that there's a lot of bugs in it because of how much they've tried to put in to the game at one time. Like, you look at one screenshot, there's 50 people, 20 cars, a plane going overhead,
Yeah.
lights and music all happening.
Yeah.
GTA, you might see a few civilians and a cop and like
Right.
maybe a line of cars.
I wonder, I mean, did they just get too ambitious? At some point
Yeah.
along the way, they
Probably.
just got too ambitious and just tried to do more than more. I mean, people forget that when the PS4 came out, it was more powerful than the PS3, but it really wasn't that powerful, compared to what you could build in a PC. You could spend $400 on a PS3 or PS4, I should say, or spend $500 and custom build a PC, and that PC would have kicked the crap out of the PS4. Now, the PS5, that's not true anymore. There is a leap in power there that's kind of hard to understate or to overstate, is the correct way to say that. Where now if you try to build a $500 PC, you would not be more powerful than the PS5. You just can't match those specs. So it's not like the PS4 was this powerhouse of a system. So the fact that the PS5 can run at 60 FPS, like, well, yeah, because the PS5 is like 4 times more powerful than the PS4. Of course it can. I don't know. It's just very strange. Like, what kind of impact on the legacy of CD Projekt Red do you think that there's going to be? I mean, that was a studio that had so much positivity and was such a beloved studio. Like, I wonder now, can CD Projekt Red properly recover from this and regain their standing as one of the most beloved and respected studios around? Or is this going to be a black eye that just isn't going to heal for them?
I think they can. Cyberpunk was delayed so much as a game, and I
Not
think
enough,
that
apparently.
people got. Yeah, well, I that's the thing. I think people got so mad that it was delayed that they released it too early.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of game companies do that. You feel the pressure of the crowd who wants you to release your imperfect game, but then they'll condemn you for not releasing the perfect game.
Right.
I mean, it's hard. It's a hard process, and I think that there'll be a patch eventually that will fix most of the bugs. I really do. Or like maybe lower the crowd a lot more, because even if you turn your crowd density on low, it's still not low.
Right.
So I think that maybe it turn down some of the music. I think that'll help. Get rid of all the strobe lights going on and focus more on gameplay.
Well, and it's probably going to take several patches to kind of work out all the bugs. I'm positive that just in addition to how difficult the game is to run, that there are probably several just bugs in the system that is sapping performance away, that is just making it run worse. I wondered when all this started what the reaction would have been if you couldn't have done this 3 months out or 6 months out, maybe a year or more out. But maybe if a year out, they come forward and they say, look, PS5 version, Xbox Series X and S version, and the PC versions are coming along nicely. And they're going to be ready, December, whatever. The PS4 and the Xbox One versions, look, they're just not there. And we don't know when they're going to be there. And we're going to release it later. People would have been mad. But I wonder if that would have been better. Like, would they be like less mad? Like, if they just hadn't even released that version yet and just said, we're holding off, we're not ready for prime time, sorry. I almost wonder, would that have been better or worse? It might have been better at this point.
It would have made them more money. I mean, what's the quote Kishimoto said? It was the good games, or if a bad game's released it's just bad, but a delayed game's only bad until it's better.
Yes, that was from Shigeru Miyamoto, the greatest game developer of all time. Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
I think he had his hands in Star Fox. Yeah, Miyamoto's the man.
Yeah.
Miyamoto says it's true.
It's facts.
It's just a fact.
But
people would have been mad though.
Yeah, but do you think they'd be still getting refunded? Would it have come down off the PlayStation Store?
See, now the situation they're in is that they released it, and now they're gonna have to release it again later, anyways. So it's like, maybe just don't release it in the first place until you're ready. It's mind-boggling to me that a studio that size, that much money being poured into this, and that's probably a lot to do with it. Is there's pressure to like, let's get this thing out the door, let's make money today. But man, oh man, to put something out there and then to be like, oh crap, we got to pull it down now. That's got to be worse, because you figure there are some people that bought it. We had 8 million copies sold before it launched. 8 million pre-orders. Like, holy crap.
I was one of them.
And how many of those pre-order? I mean, it was, I think it was something crazy as far as the PC count. A lot of them were PC. But like, there's what, between the PS4 and all the Xboxes, all the PlayStation of this current, that generation, 150 million consoles out there in the wild, probably more than, something like that. That's a lot of people that could have bought this game, that they probably were like, we got to tap into that, because there aren't that many PS5s and Xbox Series out there. PC is going to be a big chunk, but like, the biggest piece of that pie is the one that they fucked over the hardest. Shouldn't fuck your pies, CD Projekt Red. It's a weird phrasing that I just used, but that's true though. They screwed over the biggest portion of their audience.
They did, because a lot of people can't buy next gen consoles now.
Most people
they don't have, or they don't have a computer, so they're living for that PS4 Xbox experience they've been getting for however long those consoles have been out now. And it tanked so hard for the older console generations, and it's just, I don't know, I don't understand why they released it for them, and maybe I never will. And I feel bad for the people who did get it. I mean, I don't have those bad experiences, those bad glitches that people are getting, and I'm thankful for it.
Right.
But I've seen the glitches that people are getting on Twitter and Reddit, and it gets bad.
Yeah. I was just laughing because you've got your child coming up to you. That's Rutherford, one of my children, there at the door, just looking at me through the door. Hey, buddy. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I actually feel bad for CD Projekt Red in a lot of ways, because a lot of these people that work there, most of them are just developers. They're just coders. They're writing. They're writers. They're animators, and like, they don't have any. They're trying their best. Like, let's be honest.
Right.
They're not like, we're going to release a piece of shit game and take people. Like, that's not what they're trying to do. But there's people up at the top. They've got investors. They've got, I assume CD Projekt Red is a public company. If that's true, then they have shareholders that they have to keep up with. Maybe I'm wrong about that. You could easily find that with Google. But there's pressure, and the people at the top make that decision. So, the developers they're just doing their job, and you can say, well, they should have done a better job, whatever. It's not that. Life is never that simple. These are still people. It sucks from every possible direction, and honestly, I've never seen anything quite like this before. It's bizarre.
I still think it's a lot to do with people just got impatient. I mean, the game got delayed how many times beforehand? About 3. And people just, they were like, this is it. I've canceled. I saw tons of tweets about people like, I scheduled off for work so I could play it.
Because they tweeted. They tweeted from their official account, like, literally, I think like the day before the delay, they were tweeting to people, guaranteed, we're coming out. And like, then the next day they're like, JK, it's going to be another month. It's like, damn, like, that sucks. Communicate with your social media team, like, tell them like, hey, don't maybe ease up on the guarantees for the next few days. Something's going on. But, that didn't happen. So winds up being that kind of a negative situation. Hopefully it gets patched up. Hopefully those console versions get improved and people can enjoy the game. Like I know people that have it on those consoles, and I haven't spoke to them about how it's going. But when I saw like one of my buddies playing it on his Xbox, I kind of wanted to be like, hey, what's that like? Playing that piece of shit. Hope you're enjoying it. Like hope it's good for you.
Right.
But let's shift gears and talk about a game that is coming out soon. I think June. Actually, let me just make sure for sure. Yep, June the 22nd. A little game called Back 4 Blood. If you're anything like me, you probably enjoyed Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2. Those are two fantastic games. 4-player co-op games. Hordes of zombies running at you, special infected zombies. May have been one of the first games that had something like that, where you've got your cannon fodder, your horde that just run at you, and you're just blasting through them. But then you've got the big bloated zombie that explodes, and one that runs tank that runs in you, looks like big roided up guy. After Left 4 Dead 2 came out, of course, it fell into the curse. That was 2009, 11 years ago since Left 4 Dead 2. That is wild.
That's crazy.
That does not feel right. Still fun. You can still play it right now on your. And it's still great. It's still so much fun. Still holds up. A few things I would tweak, but still really good. So 2009, Left 4 Dead 2. They, this was Turtle Rock Studios. They were under the Valve banner, and of course Valve does not make thirds of any games. You don't get a Half-Life 3, you don't get a Left 4 Dead 3. They just don't do threes, so there's no Left 4 Dead 3. So they went quiet. It took them 6 years, and they made that game called Evolve, which, if you remember, I was actually really intrigued by Evolve, but it apparently did not do. It might have been the only one, because it did not do well at all. Do you remember Evolve? Do you remember what that game was like?
I remember seeing the previews for it, but I don't really remember anything else about it. I thought it looked cool, but I don't remember what I was doing at that time. So yeah. I don't really remember.
My recollection, basically, it was like a 5-player game, and it was what they called what do they call it? An asymmetrical multiplayer experience. So 4 of you were like hunters with special abilities, and the 5th person was on the other team, and they were the monster. And the monster was going to try and kill the hunters. The hunters trying to track down the monster and kill the monster. Really, really cool concept. They wanted to make it into like an esports kind of a thing, and I thought it looked really cool, but it did not go well. So at that point, it was 2015. Everyone's like, well, I guess Turtle Rock's just, what are they doing now? There's nothing really going on. Well, then they show off at the Game Awards here at the end of November. No, was it? Yeah, it was the Game Awards. They show off Back 4 Blood, and it is straight up, unapologetically, it is Left 4 Dead 3. It is 1,000,000% Left 4 Dead 3. Like they showed, in Left 4 Dead, you showed up in that safe room with the door with the bars on the window. That's there. It looks just like Left 4 Dead 3, but you're going to get the ability to ADS finally, which I'm super excited about. I think Turtle Rock I think that they worked on some of the, I may be wrong about this, but I think that they worked on some of the Counter-Strike games in the past, which explains the lack of proper ADSing. But now you can ADS. Have you watched the footage, the gameplay so far that's been out for Back 4 Blood? What was your initial reaction to seeing this happening?
Like you said, I think it's a lot like Left 4 Dead. I mean, it is Left 4 Dead. I'm super excited about it because I also was a fan of Left 4 Dead 1 and 2. I still play them to this day. I still have nights where I go to my friend's house and we we'll drink and we'll play some Left 4 Dead. It's always fun. It's a great co-op game.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited to see what it's going to be like as a revamped version. What would Left 4 Dead be in today's world? Yeah, definitely. Did you? I put a video in our little Discord. There was a YouTuber named Jack Frags playing with some of his friends. He got into the alpha that will be going on through the 21st. This is their first closed alpha. I hope to get into one of the later ones because I better believe I registered as soon as that was open. The first thing I noticed about it, I mean, it's running on Unreal Engine, so it looks much better, which of course it does. It's been 11 years, but but the first thing I noticed after they're wading into the zombies and they're hitting them with baseball bats and so forth,
They back out, and I'm like, everybody is visibly covered and like caked in blood. And I was like, that is awesome, because there's one guy that was hanging back shooting, and he looked clean still, and his buddies that were just wading in, they looked like they had been in the middle of some shit. And I was like, there's so many little touches like that make that puts a game over the top for me. I know that may sound silly, but it's like the attention to detail there that just really kind of pulls you in.
And the bigger zombies that are there, like the guy with the big arm that like just like walks and like drags himself, they look more horrifying than, you know, the bloaters in Left 4 Dead, I think is what they were called.
Yeah, I believe that's right.
Or the tanks.
Tanks
are yeah. I assume that guy with the big arm would be a tank, but you know, they're so much scarier, and they look stronger than they did in Left 4 Dead.
Well, and something that's interesting too is that they're putting in there like the different special infected have a weak point. So like the guy with the big arm that, you know, sledgehammers you, his shoulder was like glowing red, and that's where you need to focus your fire. That's his weak point. So like each of these special infected have a weak point, and I think that probably has something to do with them allowing ADSing, so you can be a little bit more accurate with your shooting. So I think it's going to add a little bit of extra depth to the gameplay, whereas in Left 4 Dead, you were kind of more, I mean, you could kind of be precise, but it was a lot of spray and pray, as people would say.
Yeah, they've made headshots really effective in this game, to where it's like, it seems like one headshot is a kill, instead of, you know, two, like pumping your ammo out. I want to know what their whole ammo thing is for this game, like how easy it is to run out, or how easy it is to like get.
Yeah, there's a lot to balance there, and I think that they'll do a good job. I mean, they're bringing back what they called the game director mode, where now, you know, basically the game is running processes in the background to analyze the play style of the people in the match. So like if you wanted to take things really slow, the game directors, the AI there, I guess you could call it, would look at that and say, well, we're going to make sure they have an exciting experience. So we're not going to let you take it slow. We're going to pump zombies at you from different angles and force you to keep moving. So you're going to have a different experience each time you play through, which was present in Left 4 Dead. So hopefully they can tweak that and make it even better. I think that was such a smart thing, because if it wasn't dynamic, you'd play through each level a handful of times and you would be done. It wouldn't be fun anymore, because you would know, okay, around the corner, that's where the witch is, that's where the tank is. Like, you could try to perfect a run, but it being dynamic each time to me, that is what makes Left 4 Dead. It's the same, but it's different. It's familiar, but it's unexpected. You round a corner and boom, there's where they call him a hunter that tackles you, or the guy with the tongue thing that starts dragging you off. Like, that is what made Left 4 Dead fun after the 100th time you played through a level.
Yeah, and you know, it was one of like the first horror games that came out. You know, before Left 4 Dead, there weren't that. You had Resident Evils and stuff like Silent Hill, but there weren't like zombie horror games. And so to bring like a new gen horror aspect to it as well, I think is really cool. Yeah, I think that, you know, because horror games are very popular nowadays. You know, either people are playing them or watching them. So I think that to bring it into like a zombie-filled game or a first-person shooter where you get to aim down sights, run through it with your friends. I love co-op games, anyways. Yeah. I'm a big couch co-opper. Yeah. So, I can't wait for this game. June cannot get here quick enough. I'm gonna pre-order it.
Yeah. I don't typically pre-order things, but if there's something worth getting from a pre-order, then it was definitely one of the ones I would consider. I remember, like you mentioned, it was one of the first, you know, games of its kind, and I just remember seeing it and the number of zombies on screen. I think that was something that was just not possible earlier than what we got. And I hope, like, I don't know if you've played World War Z, but that's the closest thing we'd had to this point of getting to Left 4 Dead 3. It's actually really good. They push a lot of zombies on the screen, so I kind of hope to see them, like those moments. Like, we're so jaded now you know, like, because it's like we've seen everything. So I'd really like to see a moment in Back for Blood where, you know, big open space and it's just like a shitload of zombies. Be unapologetic. This, you know, make it, you know, we're going
Like
for next
28
gen.
weeks later.
Exactly. Climbing up on each other, and, you know, that would be fun to see. And I wonder what kind of balance they will strike between action and horror, because the only time Left 4 Dead was really creepy to me was like the witches early on. Like with the first couple times you ran up on a witch, you were like, oh God. But like, you know, it was more just difficult. If you cranked up the difficulty, it didn't get scary or tense. It just got difficult. So I wonder what atmospheric, you know, things they might be able to do to add to the creepy kind of vibe. I would almost be into if they leaned into the creepy vibe more than necessarily just the like. Because I think sometimes in Left 4 Dead, you felt like Rambo in a zombie universe, and you weren't scared. You were just like, bring them on, like I'm gonna mow them all down. And I'd like to see it kind of get creepy where you were like, you know, playing Phasmophobia, you know, a month or so back, and those moments where you're like, I don't want to go in that room. I want to stay out here in the hallway. I don't like it in there. It looks scary. I'd like to see some stuff like that where like they haven't shown what kind of equivalent to a witch that they're gonna have. So,
no, but did you see the big tall
giant
guy?
Yeah,
The giant.
yep.
I don't know if you need a witch for that.
Maybe not. It's a different kind of scary. I wonder like how dynamic he is. Does each level have 6 places where he can pop up out of the ground? Obviously he can't just pop up anywhere, you know, they're in a building, it wouldn't make any sense. But I wonder how dynamic that's going to be as well. There's so much you can do with a game like this. And at the same time, we can talk about all the ambitious things you could do. But at the heart of it, I'm kind of like, I hope they don't do too much. Mostly just leave it alone. Just polish up Left 4 Dead 2 and make it better. That's all you really have to do for me, and I'm going to be happy.
Yep. Same.
I really don't need much.
But I think being like such a big fan of these games, I really think I am going to pre-order it. And you can switch between first and third person. You can aim down sights. It looks so good. It looks amazing. I'm super excited for it.
Yeah. It was probably from the Game Awards when we got, you know, a few trailers, you know, that was probably the one that I was the most like immediately excited for. You remember when we were kids playing Perfect Dark on the N64?
Oh yeah.
So the trailer of a Perfect Dark reboot got me a little excited too.
I did not see the Perfect Dark trailer.
Yeah.
I would have cried.
Yeah, I actually like, it was pretty cool because it was like cinematic, and this camera, it looked like it's like a drone going through these rooms, and I was like, I'm watching this and I'm like, what is this? What is this game? And then I forget what it said, but it said something about like, maybe it said something, it was like a narrator, and maybe the narrator said something about Agent Dark, like right as it went up, and you saw like a lady's back, and I can't remember, maybe she had like red hair, it was visible, and I was like, what the fuck? And then it zooms out and it's like Perfect Dark, and I like legitimately like pulled my sleeve up and like I had chill bumps. I was like, Jesse, look. She was like, what is this game even? I was like, I can't even begin to explain to you how much time we wasted playing Perfect Dark. That game, like, part of me is like, if you ask me what game's more likely to live up to the hype, a Perfect Dark reboot or Back 4 Blood, it's Back 4 Blood. Like, they're probably going to fuck up Perfect Dark. Like, that's probably going to happen. But
games like Perfect Dark and 007 for the Nintendo 64 were good because they were old.
Yeah.
I think they're good because they have that old school game where you just like run through, you have the specific areas, and like, you know, they were too good for their own time, and I don't think they'd fit into this one.
Have you tried to go back and play GoldenEye or Perfect Dark in the modern times?
No.
Don't do it. No. Don't. The controls, holy mackerel, the controls are horrible. Because if you remember, you had one joystick on the N64, and then you used your C buttons to look around. God almighty, how did we live that way? It was horrible.
Perfect.
And here's the other thing. I may be misremembering this, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. You like it was backwards, I think.
Yeah, it was inverted.
So like God, it was just horrible. Like I tried to play it like an emulator, and I was like, "There's no way for me to map these controls." Like I think that there's something weird where like now obviously your left stick makes you move forward, backwards, and strafe left, and right stick looks around. It wasn't as if the right stick was just the C buttons. It was something else where like maybe the stick when you turn to the left, like your character would turn. It was something like that. Something's just like you look back and you're like, well, we did not know how to make shooters yet. Like we were experimenting, didn't work. Like Turok's the same way. If you're trying to play Turok on like an emulator, it does not work. The controls are just, it's unplayable almost now.
Yeah, I haven't played any shooters on my emulator. I've been playing like Banjo-Kazooie and Mario 64, and I use this thing.
Yeah.
You got like move around and the C stick, and C stick's how you control your camera.
Yeah, which works.
So like, yeah, so you can be moving your camera at the same time, and it feels just like a normal game.
Yeah. So platformers work fine.
I can't imagine what it would be like to play something like 007 or GoldenEye, because those story modes in those games were fun. I still remember the missions of GoldenEye. And
the sniper rifle in the snowy area. Yeah, those games were so much fun. I have such vivid memories of Perfect Dark though. Like me and my buddy Andrew back in the day, like, it's such a stupid story. It was so dumb. There's an alien, and then there's an alien, like a gray alien, and it turns out that it's Elvis, and I guess they mean it's literally like the singer Elvis was an alien. I mean, he's like a gray. I don't know how that makes any sense. And you get alien guns halfway through the game, which were so freaking cool. There's one that looked like a shark, and when you would reload it, there was like an orb, and it would just like, you would like put the orb in front of the gun. It would just go like, it would absorb it into the gun. That's how you reload. And I'm like, this is so cool. It was so good. The laptop gun. There was like,
I remember the laptop gun.
And you could throw it at a wall, and it would stick to it and be a turret. It was just, there's so many, like GoldenEye was great, but after they made GoldenEye, you got the feeling that they went, okay, we made GoldenEye, licensed property. We couldn't go too crazy because it's James Bond shit. Now we're going to just throw who's got an idea? Yeah, put it in the game. Put it in. Elvis? Yeah. Aliens? Sure. Put it in there. Whatever. They just did everything that they possibly wanted to do. And that was Perfect Dark. And it was so good. God, I loved Perfect Dark. That was like the first shooter that I like really, really played.
I remember we got addicted to Portal for a while too.
Yeah.
Portal was a really, I want to see what Portal would be like in today's world, like like on a computer or a PS5. I bet that game would be a top seller
if they could I mean, yeah, they'd have to really try and come up with some new ideas to kind of,
maybe like a battle royale. Those are popular. We've been playing a lot of those, like a battle royale Portal, where you're just like running, all of a sudden a portal pops up, guy comes out from the wall beside you.
Now there actually is a game that is a competitive shooter. What is it called? And it's got portals in it, and it is really similar to what you're talking. Splitgate. Look up Splitgate. It is not that far from what you're talking about. Like, it is a competitive shooter where you're shooting portals and finding angles to shoot at people through the portals. It is extremely
9 out of 10.
Yeah, apparently it's pretty good. I think it would break my brain, because I think when you first started playing Portal, I feel like I remember like the first like hour, I was just like, my brain just wasn't functioning right, and then something clicked, and then I just started knocking out level after level. It's like it took me a minute to for my brain to be like, okay, yeah, I understand I get what's happening here now, and then everything was okay.
It's free to play. It does look like a free to play game though. Or you can add all the DLC for $23.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
It's an interesting concept.
It does
for sure.
it does look like a free-to-play game, but also Apex was a free-to-play game, and Apex is a great game.
It's true. It's true. Well,
So,
I think we're about at our 40-minute run times. I think I'm gonna wrap things up. Before I go any further, I want to thank you for stepping in here on very short notice and helping me get an episode out, so I don't have to wait till Jesse gets home tired from work and say, "Okay, now we can record a podcast."
I'm glad to be here. You know, I love doing podcasts. It's one of my favorite things to record.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. I need to start trying to branch out and record them with other people as well and have guests and so forth on. When we did XP Earn back in the day was the podcast we did for a year and a half before any of this stuff, the YouTube channel, all that stuff. We started doing interviews of developers and things like that, and it'd be fun to start doing that again. So maybe that'll be a thing that'll start happening down the line. So yeah, that brings us to the end of this episode. Head over to scaryifliteral.com for the links to the YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all those sorts of things. I'm very active on Twitter if you want to follow me on there at scaryifliteral. Like I said, Daniel is under youngbread401. I believe that's your Twitter handle too, isn't it?
Yeah, I think my YouTube is now just Young Bread.
Okay.
I think I finally changed. I think I finally fixed that the other day, where it's just Young Bread. It looks more official.
Awesome. Gotcha. Okay, so definitely go check out Daniel there if you have a chance to do so. So thank you for joining me today, Daniel. My name is Shane. This was Podcast Revived, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.